Time to sculpt some dragon heads. Who doesn't like dragon heads, right? So this started off just a regular ball. And I noticed when I hit the brush key that there was a button on there that I wasn't expecting. So right here, the enable brush here, if I'm sculpting, nothing's happening. And it's really annoying with the draw brush. You can see there. And so there's an alpha stamp, like you have the alpha stamp for Photoshop. So I'm going to turn that off, and now it works fine. So I just missed that little thing there earlier. So remember, the space bar will give you the hot key here. So if you want to crank up the strength, you can do it here. And I have a hard time with my Wacom tablet working with this. I don't know why, but this is the strength. You can see the dial working up there. The top, this is the size as well. I just use my bracket keys. So I don't use this hotkey because for whatever reason, my stylus doesn't like this. Here's the detail. Be careful cranking up the detail. Always leave it nice and low until you do the detailing phase. And here's the brush mask. You can see it's blank because I have the brush mask not enabled. Clay, if you hit the brush key, if you hit the D for draw key, if you hit it a second time, so there's a regular brush. And so I'll do a couple strokes here on the back of the head. Right, so do one stroke here and another stroke here. Okay, if you have clay turned on, if I hit the draw key again, if you go across the two, it's going to fill in between without adding to the bump and overlapping. If I hit the draw key a second time, let me zoom in so you can see. When I go across it, it's going to go up over the top, add to what was already there, and then down the valley, and then back up again over the top. So you see it's adding to. So if you want that, if you want like a cuff around a wrist, something, if you want to fill in the space, if you hit draw again, you see it's going to fill in between without creating an extra lump, without going across the top. There you go. So clay kind of fills in. And you also have soft on that. So if I hit S on the keyboard with clay, and I'm going in between the valleys here. It does like a little softening on the edges. So hold down Control or Alt, left click on or click on my keyboard to zoom in and out, and then Alt click to pan back and forth. Let go of Alt to zoom in and out. So really simple interface. So for all this mess I made back here, I'll just go to a nice big brush with the bracket keys, hold down Shift, and smooth it all out, and it goes away. You can also use the reduce brush right here. So here's the strength on the reduce brush. So as you go, if you get more triangles than you need in an area that's obvious, like the back of the skull, you usually don't need. Same thing underneath the chin, underneath the jaw. You always usually want to save those extra triangles for around the eye socket, around the nose, the mouth, of course. So just keep that in mind, and we'll call these out as we go here. So the crease tool E is really your big friend here. So if I go to E to the crease tool, and usually want to increase the detail a bit, and I'll bracket key down. So let's define the side of the dragon mouth here. So I'm going to go in here and really kind of carve away this jawline here, and let me go back again with it, and just kind of stroking back and forth as I get to the end here. I'm going to really push that in. There we go. So I've really defined that lower jaw. I'm giving him an underbite, doing like a stout bulldog-ish type dragon. And then for the flatten brush, so you have an F for flatten, you'll want to keep your planes. So this is like really, really important sculptural technique. You want to keep your planes relatively flat, and we don't need much detail. I have it lock on plane, so F. So if I want like the bottom of a foot, let's say I want the bottom of the neck to be perfectly flat, all in one dimension. If I don't have the lock on plane, so if I go and flatten this, it's going to flatten it, but it's going to flatten it kind of an average out as I go around a corner. So you see it's flattening, but it's kind of keeping it flat there, and it's keeping it flat here. And where those two planes meet is a creased corner. Flattening your main planes, major planes on your organic form, and keeping those sharp edges, that is the essence of a good sculpture. But if I hit F a second time, you'll see when I start off here and I do in the stroke, as I go over that corner, it brings the clay out to that edge I started at. It truly flattens it, as it says there, locked to that plane, planar axis. And if I stroke around the corner, so that's a really good way to get an attachment point. sculpt it. It's also a good way to do like the bottom of a foot or something like that. So if I hit F again, it turns off. Again, there's a softer fall off angle. So as I flatten around the corners here, it's going to kind of pivot over the edge and then flatten around the sides, and I'm leaving symmetry on. Certainly. Now, doing a dragon head, so the back of the dragon head actually is going to be, if this is a dragon man, so this is like your dragonkin or something, D&D, then of course that would work fine. Actually, let's just do that. Heck with it. Yeah, let's do that. So now we want to go to the move brush. So G is your grab brush, and bracket nice and big, and we'll just kind of pull the back of this head out and the neck over here. So I'm kind of making that area, there we go, a little bit more reasonable in size. And then we'll go back to the D to draw brush. And let's kind of refine that spine area, that's kind of go back, and we're going to put some spiky, fun, dragon stuff on the top of the head. So I'm going to go nice and loose. W, you can see my level of detail right there. You can see it's adding a few triangles, but not too many. My triangle count right now down here is the counter's 21,900. So if I go to my meter here, you can see the details in the lower third, just barely, but it's definitely a lower half, but closer to lower third. So that's about where you want to keep it through most of the sculpt. And now we can go in here and let's play around with some other tools. So let's do, again, the crease brush, which is E. And if I want to push in, I just do normal. If I want to pull up, I hold down Alt. It's going to do the alternative. So it's going to pull that crease upward. So I'll do the nostril. Let's go ahead and define that a little bit better. So I'll define the nostril, bit right there. And then after I pull up the crease, right next to that pulled up line, I'm going to push the crease back in beneath it. And that's where you get like really good planar changes. Then if I do the flatten tool, if I go F on there, make sure it's not locked on the plane. And if I zoom in, again, that's Alt, left click, and then let go of Alt to drag in. Now I can get that plane, and you can kind of see how it's keeping that sharp edge, but it's making it flatter right to the edge of that nostril, which isn't what I want, but I'm just kind of showing you how that works. Go back to the draw brush, kind of pull some of that nostril out. And now we can have some fun with the teeth. So I'll show you the masking tool trick, which is amazing. So if we go here to the lower jaw and make sure I got a space here that's working, and do a little draw right here. So if I want to flatten it out, I hit F a second time. That'll lock it to the plane, and then brush, and it's gonna actually create a little flattened area on the bottom of the jaw. Or is it? Come on, there it goes. So it draws the plane on there, and then it's kind of flatten out based on however flat I get those edges to begin with. And I'm just basically preparing the surface for where I'm going to pull the teeth out. Now, it didn't quite do what I wanted to, so I'm going to say heck to it. I'm just going to go straight to the grab brush. I wish it was called the move brush. It's really the move brush. It does grab and move. But if I want to get the teeth now, I just go to a good angle. Because remember, it's going to be locked to the plane of your screen, whichever angle you're at. So if I go here and grab it from the other side, make it a little bit smaller, there we go, and I pull, it's going to pull a tooth out. Look at that. So cool, right? And it's at an angle though, right? So if I want to do that more straight, if I go from the front view and pull up on that, you'll see it's going to push it kind of up into the face. If I go a little bit sharper angle here, if I pull, it's going to pull that up. And you'll see I just barely caught the front of the muzzle, the upper muzzle there. There we go, pull that out a little bit. So I wouldn't try and get it too perfect to start with, but if you hold down Control and do that masking brush, you can mask out a little circle here. I'm quite sure what's happening with my pen. There we go. So sometimes I just say heck with it and just switch over to the mouse for some of this if their tablet pens being fickle like mine is. And I'm just kind of masking out where I don't want this pixels to get affected, right? I'm going to do the lower jawline first. Hold down Control, so a little circle. There we go. Okay, and then Control tap an empty space. There we go. And now if I go to the grab brush, you see it's global. So wherever I pull, it's going to pull the whole thing up. Let me undo that. If I hit G again, you see global turns off. And if I pull, it's just going to do, if I get my brush to quiet, it's going to just pull one at a time, right? Which is usually the way we want it to work. But if I hit G a second time and go global, it's going to pull all of these up. And if I rotate and hit shift at the same time, it's going to snap. So click an empty space, rotate to the side, shift, snap to the left. Start turning the other way as I go, hit shift, and it snaps to the back. Pretty awesome. So let's get it snapped perfectly to the front. So rotate an empty space and shift, snap to the front. Grab one of the unmasked areas of the teeth, and if my Wacom tablet is not cooperating, I'll just grab this with the mouse and pull up. Oh, I went to the flatten. My bad. Grab. So I thought I was in. There we go. Grab up, out a little bit, and then maybe go to the side, and that's a little bit too far back. So go to the side view and let's pull it forward and then up a little bit like that. There we go. That's pretty good. Yes, we can live with that. And I could leave them rounded, but you know, it's probably not what we want. So we can go to the fine-tuning portion of the grab brush, and we can kind of go in here tooth by tooth and kind of make sure it's a big enough brush to grab it, and grab and then shift, smooth it out a bit, pull it up, shift, smooth out a bit. So remember, anytime you're getting a lot of jaggeds on here, just be aware that usually you just got to hold shift and smooth a little as you go, and that'll usually be enough to fix it. So the angle of the monitor is extremely important. Let me go back to flatten here. Let's flatten this edge out. There we go. Flatten it out, shift to smooth it. And the shift brush is really strong right now. And this would be where if this is just a quick sketch, right? If I want really good, accurate teeth, I would just model each tooth from a cone individually for sure and be done with it. There we go. Pull that up a little bit more. Shift to smooth. F to flatten. Flatten the edge, one corner. Flatten out the corner on the other side. Shift, smooth it out. There we go. Not too pretty, but you get the point. And he's going to be a bit of a snaggle tooth. Oh yeah, Control tap and empty space will will invert the mask. So Control tap. Control drag will remove the mask entirely. So now we can go in here and kind of flatten some of these out a bit again. And if I go to my grab tool, I can get right to the point of that, go real small and just kind of pull a tip out there. But get to a good angle that you want to be at. There we go. It's a little bit better, little better. And it's not bad having a round bulbous area at the bottom of the tooth. So I'm pulling back more than I want. So I'm going to get to a better angle over here and pull. And yeah, you will get spoiled once you do use ZBrush. I complain a lot about it, but it is my favorite program, and it is the industry standard for digital sculpture. But it is so expensive for students that I really try and emphasize all these free apps first to get you comfortable before you go and pay the money for ZBrush, because these lighter, simpler apps, especially Nomad Sculpt is absolutely amazing. They get most of the job done what you need, and they won't break your bank. So that's why we're doing this with this class. You know, no one has to worry about really installing things and paying through the nose for an app that they may not use after the class is over, which who knows. So I'm just holding down shift and smoothing these out, trying to get that point across. Haha. For the tooth. There it goes. And then if I need to go back to the draw brush down around the base, I can kind of bulk these up a bit. I have clay and soft both turned on, and I can always hit spacebar and lower the strength if I think it's doing too much. So So far, so good. I'll just kind of bulk up around the bottom of the teeth. Yeah, they're all over the place. So I won't get in there and try and finesse that too much right now. I'll just kind of run with it and smooth it out a bit as I go. There it goes. I bulk that out side, bulk it out the front. And again, just sculpting a tooth by itself and placing it where you want, that's going to be a lot more effective. But masking and showing that technique, I think, is a lot of fun. And so we'll get back into draw mode. So we'll go in here and we'll draw in the eyelids inside the eye socket and the lower eyelid here. There we go. Go back to the crease tool, which is E, and hold down the opposite Alt and kind of sharpen that up a bit, especially in the tear duct region here. And he's starting to look a little happy. So yeah, let's run with it. He's the happy dragon guy. What was the guy's name in the Dungeons and Dragons movie? He's the Jonathan character in the prison, in the spine of the world. And if I back and draw this out a bit more, smooth some of that, just kind of sliding my cursor back and forth until I feel a little more comfortable. E if I want to carve around the tooth into the gum a bit more. Oh yeah, I missed this one completely over here. These little nubby teeth. Kind of funny. Get into a good pull position here and pull those up a bit. There we go. It's a little bit better. Yeah, it's still wonky inside of here. There we go. Just smooth it out. Grab. Remember when your grab is accidentally on global, you just got to check that little box. It's not on global. You should be fine. Yeah, you got something to work with there. So go up to the top to the jawline here, and we'll just finish this off. So just gonna fill in around underneath and right in the side. Hold down Shift after a few strokes and kind of smooth it back out again. There we go. Maybe go back to flatten. Maybe chisel up the front. Try and maintain, like I said, maintain those planes. It is locked, so hit F again. It's not quite what I wanted. I wanted to kind of flatten around those corners, and it crashed. Hey, how about them? Yeah, free software. It crashes pretty easy, and luckily when I opened it up, it took me right back to where I was. Yeah, pretty much right back to where I was. So I'm not sure what I did differently there. Go back to flatten, see if it remembers the tool settings. Looks like it didn't, so no big deal. Go back to draw. Digital 3D drawing, right? And then maybe beef up the bone on the side here. Go back to my grab tool. I like putting spikes on the or no, I'm sorry, not grab. Yeah, just grab. I like putting spikes on the end of the chin of the jawbone, or maybe forward curling, whatever. There we go. Kind of cool. And then you know, using this grab some more. I could do some at the top of the snout here. Pull that out. It should be pretty good about providing the extra triangles when I need them. Right, depending if you have the details still really low on there, which is I think good to keep it that way. So I'll do a few there, and then maybe it is there's a lot of spikes around the brow. You see, like it's your beardies, right? And then you got any lizards you grew up with, or is it fun for anatomy or fun for reference? And could do the brow of the snout coming down. Could fill this in a bit more. Then come to the back here, and they usually have some like dials or circular shapes like back here around where the ear might be. I'm just using the shift tool to maybe smooth a lot of these lumps out. You don't want your digital sculpture as well as regular clay. In regular clay, we use a rake tool to get rid of all the lumps. and digital sculpture, we just constantly switch over to shift to the smooth tool and kind of make sure that that's you're not getting the lumps, chewed bubblegum look on your 3D models, which is pretty prominent. You'll see it a lot in both experts and newbies. Okay, maybe fill in some flesh down here around the eye region a bit more. Shift to smooth it out. There we go. And didn't really like how those spikes turned out, so I'm just going to get rid of them. Just the shift tool. There we go. And yeah, he's kind of a happy dude, so I'll just leave him as my little happy dragonkin guy. And maybe maybe he does need some spikes, like around the edge at least, I think, right here. Yeah, the frills, so to speak, around the jawline. There we go. And then just shift to smooth that out a bit, and shift to smooth out around the edges. There it goes. It gets a little spiky towards the end there as you smooth that out. That's what I was trying to get it to do with the teeth, but it was not cooperating because it maybe didn't have enough triangles or something. I don't know what the deal was. Fickle software. And very conscious of the view angle I'm at on screen as I do this to make sure. And then maybe up here. So go back to the masking tool, use control, kind of mask off a little circle. And if it's too big, just bracket key down, control, and control, and control. There we go. Go back to grab and control tap. Whoops. Control tap. If you control drag, it clears the whole thing, right? So back to G, and it's global. So we'll grab it and we're going to pull and let go of the global, go back to a smaller and pull these up. And then shift to kind of smooth out the edges a bit. Try not to kill the whole thing. You see the mask, it's fully covered down below, but it gets weaker. The masking gets weaker for where we pulled the, there we go. Pull it up a little bit more. And then shift, smooth back down towards the base. There we go. So you just got to play with it. That's the whole thing. Play with, have fun, control tap. There we go. So I can get her back on that base a little bit better. So yeah, doing, little tiny teeth and stuff, of course, is harder than doing this bigger stuff that I just did. And like I said, I'll do the eyeball and whatnot in Maya. But we could just about call this guy done. Let's go ahead and sculpt some scales on him, though, for a moment. So we'll go back to the draw tool, D, and I'm going to crank up the detail just a little bit because we're going to add some scales on this guy. So down around the base here, so hold control and kind of just masking off where I want the scales to go. Bracket key's a little bit smaller. There you go. You can see it's adding the triangles in for me, which is what we want. And underneath around the jawline. And if you do control, so let's say I do a big blob here, right? I'm like, oh, dude, I don't want a big old scale there. Zoom in, control, and then alt will erase away. So a lot of times you can go in here and you can make the pattern you want, whether it's a scale or wrinkles, and then control and alt is going to give you the power to take away and erase away any masking you don't want. You can't save the mask in this app. You can say, or maybe you can, but I forget. It wasn't very good when they did have it. So yeah, it's not ZBrush, but that's looking pretty good. That'll give me something to play with. I can go here around the eyes, so we can go like this around the eye socket and down the nose. Whoops. And then maybe some bigger ones here. And, pull out your reference, get your crocodile, get your real living. prehistoric creature reference, monster reference, crocodiles and sharks, still the coolest predators, most ancient creatures out there in terms of longevity. So there we go, and do some more up here. Now, if you're nervous about losing your mask, you can always stop and sculpt the scales out and then go and put them back in again. But I'm just playing here, so for me, it's not that big a deal. Maybe I'll do a big scale up here. And you'll notice that in the side of the cheek, for a lot of these creatures, you'll see the reptiles, see like a large scale like at the cheek area, or maybe up where the ear would be, so to speak. There we go, just about done. I might go ahead and just do the whole thing, so while I'm at, just to show you how fast this is. Go here around the cheekbone. And maybe do some little filler scales in here around the eye. Down here around the nostrils. There it goes. And do up beneath the jawline. Super fun. I mean, when we start pulling these all out, it totally transforms the sculpt that you're working on. Right now, it just looks like I'm doing like a bad leopard pattern or something. And maybe turn the detail up a tiny bit more. There it goes, yeah. So we have to use the reduce brush on this afterwards. And if you wanted any of these more square, like you go in here and then just Control Alt to really carve away a sharper edge if that's what you wanted to do. But I'm glad I waited to the end to put the higher of detail because it can crash. You see I'm at 182,000 triangles right now. Yeah, and you push it much higher, like 500,000 or something, and you got a pretty good chance it's gonna crash. Like, I already crashed once, which reminds me, I should save what I'm doing here. That's a great idea. We'll go Dragonkin _head _01 and save that to the desktop and keep on going. Watch out for the teeth. You don't want to accidentally get this on the teeth. You definitely want a good one here, or in the chin, and around the spike. Turn the W off so the wireframe kind of shuts out of our way a little bit. Okay, maybe a few more here up by the spikes. Yeah, if you accidentally click drag on the empty space, it will kill it. So you just gotta be ready to undo and bring it back. Do that on accident. Don't worry about it too much. I'm just smoothing out around the base of the spikes a little. And ready to go. Okay, Control Tap one time. Whoop, Control Tap. There we go. And we can use the inflate brush, which is C. Go really nice and big with it. And kind of blow, inflate. It's going to pull all this scale detail out for us. Pretty darn cool. And then once we get it all pulled out a little bit, I'm going to go and I'm going to use the flatten brush F, and we'll just kind of, okay, I thought I hit the button, and flatten down a lot of these balloony inflated areas. Whoa, really strong there. So let's crank the strength down on that. Angle fall off S, sure, let's do the angle fall off. Now I'm going really fast, so whoops, if I want to be more careful with it, Dang, this is really hard to not undo the mask on accident. So maybe start off at the front or the upper part of each scale for the flattening, and then let it kind of hang over the bottom a little bit. I don't know, it depends. I always mean to do like a dragon a day. It was like there's a contest online. I thought that'd be fun. There's October had the Inktober, and then there's all the controversy about that. And the guy was stealing people's stuff, and which is absolutely horrible. It's too bad a good idea got ruined. I don't know if that's true or not. So what I heard, I don't really care. So I'm just kind of flattening all this out a little bit, and then go definitely in here around the eye. There we go. And if we decide shift to smooth out a little bit, if you want to just watch out, because that right there, the smooth is intensity strength's way too high. So just by default, it's going to grab that. So if you go shift from another tool, you just got to remember what your last intensity for that smooth brush was at to give you an idea where it's going to be when you and then sometimes you want the plane lock on the scale. If you're going to do one scale at a time, for sure, yeah, if you're going to take the time to do that. But, you know, for a quick sketch, I don't think it's really going to do you too much good. So, okay, click drag. There you go. Got a little bumpy, scaly dragonkin head. Yeah. Go back to the E to the crease tool, and we'll kind of carve back in. Looks like it needs a little bit more detail. Looks like it was set to 0. Wow, no wonder I wasn't getting much play with it. All right, so yeah, carving around the base of the horns for sure. It's a good place to look like, you know, one area is coming out, you know, grown, have an outgrowth from the other. Then go back to the draw brush, and, you know, the detail and the intensity and strength. All these are set brush by brush, which is, you know, it is a good thing to have that remembered by brush. It's a little better, faster. You just got to remember, if you have a universal change, you got to in mind, you can't, you have to go in and kind of fix them one at a time. So there you go. So I'm just kind of bringing up that area around the horns where this kind of comes up. And yeah, it got a little, I'm not really happy with these. They got really too rounded and bumpy. So if I had the time, my hands up for the repetition, I might go in here and just kind of tone all these down. You can see the strength on the flatten's really low, so maybe that's the one I should have had higher when I was doing the, yeah, there it goes, the bigger ones. So could have been sharper, but, you know, these big rounded ones here to me look a little goofy, but it's kind of a goofy character, right? This way I tend to just make creepy and scary things and vicious looking things, not so much, you know, happy Pokemon character or whatever. But yeah, that's looking okay. I could easily go into the eyelid region, so you can see the upper eyelid's kind of pushed in a little bit. So you can go in there and you can pull that out with the grab brush. So go back into grab, make sure it's not set to global, and you can pull that upper eyelid out. See, it's got a pretty good grab radius. It's grabbing below, even though the orange fall off is not anywhere near it. It's kind of annoys me sometimes. And you can mask off one side if you want to just mask off the lower part of the eyelid, and that, and alt take away, you know, make sure it's not masked on the upper part. That way, if I go to move these, now it's just moving the upper eyelid by itself, and it's not really grabbing any of the lower eyelids. So I'm just masking off where I don't want to accidentally grab the lower eyelid, and that will free me up with the crease tool here. Now I can go up here and I can work a little more freely on this upper eyelid without worrying about it grabbing the lower eyelid on accident. So definitely useful. There we go. And then Control and Alt to make sure it's not masked there. Continue. and then Control Tap to reverse the mask. So now I'm just working on the lower eyelid, right? And it's masked off the entire rest of the sculpture, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna carving underneath a little bit. Control drag to clear the mask, and maybe do a little bit more of the bags, a little flesh of the eye socket above. Maybe push in the tear duct here a little more. And let's crank up the intensity of strength even more on there and really push the upper eyelid, and then go in here and then after I come around the side here, is it draw? Yeah, I keep wanting to call it B for brush, but it's draw. It's probably in the term from SculptGL. There you go. And you want to fill in some of the flesh here. There's a lot of flesh gets filled in at the eye socket, above the eyelid and below the eyelid. That's the eyeball. It's a lot of protective tissue, right? So we don't lose our eyes. So let's zoom back out now. So Alt, click, and then while I'm holding Alt, I click and then let go of Alt, and I can zoom back out. There we go. Yeah, that's a little better. All right. So that is a little overview. We looked at the crease tool, playing with the strength, the size, watching out for double clicking on the grab from global. We looked at masking off some parts, so we still have a nice attachment point here at the neck. So let's take a look at this inside of Maya and see what we can do with this character to put it on our biped body. All right, let's check that out. And come on, wake my mouse up. And before I bring it over, actually, I wanted to just show you again the reduce brush. So reduce brush is right here. It has its own strength. And if there's any area that has maybe a lot of extra triangles, you can kind of reduce. Like right here's a lot triangles right there. You just kind of, anywhere you see a ton of waste, right now we're at 200,000 triangles. That's a lot. If you have a weaker system, like my computer is kind of rough right now, so I don't know what's wrong with it. So I'm kind of taking it easy. So I might crank up the strength on that just a bit. And there it goes. And it's kind of getting rid of a lot of those extra triangles down here that just aren't necessary. There we go. And you can see it's already down to 182, so we just wiped out 20,000 triangles right in here, a few strokes at a time. And it is pressure sensitive, so I'm pressing lighter, maybe even in the spikes up here, since we're gonna just you want to have a good controlled tooth and spike. We'll model them individually and place them strategically on the model. So underneath the cheek here, definitely too many triangles. Don't need all those triangles. In the nose, in the snout region here. And we're down to 94,000. Well, so we just cut it in half by turning up the strength a little over about 3/4 of the way. It's not reducing anymore, huh? That's surprising. Let's crank it up even more. There it goes. Yeah, that was odd. In the nostril and underneath. So that gives us a close enough approximation for what we want this character to look like. And I could take away some in the eye region as well, and it'll still keep the detail. It's a really cool program. There we go. So there's our dragon head. And now let's save and export. Now we're down to 57,000. We just dropped 150,000 off there in like a minute. And we'll save that and we'll export it, bring it